Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. So today we are continuing our data weave class. This is our third class. And today, mainly, we are going to see data transformations using metadata. Metadata, it means metadata means data about data or additional data. It is not the main data, but in this case, in this case, we are going to use as an example data as input, and then data we will generate the code for us for the transformation. It could be renaming columns, the fields. It could be mathematical transformation. It could be selecting only a subset of the columns and so on. We are going to see. So we will see with using metadata how to do data transformation in the using the transform message. And last week since we saw the map operation that transforms elements of an array element by element. Now you will see how this one, when we use metadata, how it generates code for us. So until you master the map operation, writing the code, until you master that, you can use example data, metadata, and see how it is generating the code, and that will help you to master it better. The other thing is, before we have seen data transformations between XML, JSON, CSV, and XLSX from one format to the other. But during that time, the transformations we did, it didn't include, for example, just selecting a subset of the columns or modifying the values of the data. It was just all the data, all the fields transforming, for example, from JSON to CSV. But there could be cases where your input it has 10 fields, and from the 10 fields, maybe you need 5 of them, and maybe 2 of them added together or renamed fields and so on. So when we use the map operation, we can do all of these kinds of changes. So we said last week, we use map operation to transform each element of an array, right? So the input should be an array when we use a map operation. So the example data that we are going to use also, it will be an array. It should be, if it is Excel, if it is CSV, it should have multiple input, or at least an array of one input. The JSON also, it should not be an object, rather it should be an array, and so on. These kinds of things, we are going to build a project and master now, see how to do that today. And the other thing is that I want to talk about is at the end, I have this one, an assignment, as you can see. So the assignment is in the input. Today in the class, we are going to see using array metadata. So rather than an array, you are going to use an object. That means just one element or one item from an array, and do the same data transformations and understand the difference in the code generated. So in that case, when we have an object, rather than using map, we will see tomorrow, we use map object. And you will see also when you have an object as metadata, the code it generates is slightly different. So we are experimenting mainly with these data formats today, but I want you to also practice with data weave data format and Java data formats. So I want you just to modify the project that we are going to create today and experiment with that. And also, I think it is good if you push your projects to your GitHub repos. Those of you who have created GitHub repository, GitHub account. So I encourage you this assignment to do it and push it to your GitHub repo, and then share your GitHub project link to the Telegram group. Okay, so let's create a project. So for the project, I have this data that all of you can get online. I shared it in the Telegram group yesterday under the W3 schools. We have the XML tutorial, right? right? So it discusses what XML is, its structure, it gives examples and so on. You can read that. We have been working with XML with different examples. So I will take this data here. So this data, here is the structure. So this part is a declaration, just it declares the version of the XML, as you can see here, and also the encodings. There are different encodings. UTF-8 and UTF-16 are the common ones. So this is the declaration. The data part of the XML is in here. This part is, it starts from here to here, as you can see. So this is the data. And there are a couple of terminologies that we should remember here. So one of them is this one, as you can see, the bookstore. This is called root element. You can see the structure here. So here, just remember this one, the top element, it is called root element. So for this example, it is bookstore. For other data types, it will be different. So that is a root element. Then under that root element, it is a parent, and it has a child element called book. So if you see here, let me use this, you see here, book. So this is about one book. Another book element, this one is another book, and this one is another book. So it is about the books in a bookstore, who the title, the author, and the publication year, and the price. So this data, we will see how to transform it from one data format to the other using example input. Rather than writing the code ourselves, we just give it an example input, and then it is going to generate the corresponding transformed data. We can also see how to rename the column, the fields, rather than, for example, year, we can make it year of publication, and so on. We can rename the fields in the output. So this one, if in case any of you don't have it, let me share it in the chat. Okay, so that's the data. Let me remove these annotations. Then I will copy this. What we are going to do is just copy this and open a text editor. I have Notepad++ here. So I will just paste it here. And I have to save it as XML because it is XML. So it's file, save as in, I will specify my location here, sample data, and I will save it as extensible markup language. So XML corresponds to extensible markup language file. So if I do this, and let's call it bookstore, so it will save it as bookstore.xml. So this is the location, there is no file there. But if I click save now, you will see, since it detects the structure, the color will also change. So you see, so we say this is a declaration, and this is a root element, and we have this element, this book element. The other important thing to remember, which is common in interviews and certifications also, is, guys, remember this one, it is called an attribute. So this book element, it starts, consider one book element from here to here. So it is about one book. It has title, author, year, price, but it has also category here within these brackets. This is called an attribute. So if you come here, the bookstore root element is a child, and it has different elements, as you can see here. This is a book element, and it has different elements in this horizontal axis that you see. And this element, the title, which is here, this title, it has an attribute. And the attribute is, you can see here, this one has an attribute, the title, but before that, the book itself also has an attribute. The element, this one also has an attribute, and that attribute is category. So see, book category, this is cooking category, and the title is English, The second, in the second one, the category is children, the language is still English. The third one, the category is web, the language is still English. But you see, these are category and language are called attributes. So we'll see how to access them. When we transform data from one format to the other, how do you access that? Before, we did different XML transformations, but the data didn't have any attributes. So that is another important thing to remember about the root element and also attributes. Okay, so this data, let us transform it to, we have input data now as XML. As you can see, the extension here is XML. Now I will change that to CSV also. So just I will open Excel, and I think I can import open. Okay. Open where the folder is. Let me specify the location, and it is in here. Data transformation, sample data, bookstore. Then I will tell it is XML type. So it detects it as XML table. When I do that and click inside, okay, then you see now it has changed it to CSV data. This one I can save it now both as CSV and also as XML SX. So you see now it is structured. So the difference is Excel is made for humans, whereas Excel is made for humans, whereas Excel, the XML is for computers, basically. So let me increase the widget to show you. So we have the category, the attribute, now it is as a column. So if you see here, attribute, we have category here, right, under the book element. This one, it is a column by itself. There is category column, and its value, you see, cooking. Let me increase the font. So you see, we have cooking, children, and web under category. Category is an attribute in the XML, original XML data. And we have the title, language also. It was an attribute. It is English, all of them. Then we have author, year, price. So now let's save this as CSV. The location should be in here. I will call it bookstore as CSV, comma delimited. This one, CSV, comma delimited. So I have saved it as CSV. Let's also save it as XLSX, which is the Excel format. This one also save. Now I have 3 data types, as you can see here. The XML, original XML, and the Excel, and comma separated value. Now we need JSON. And from Excel, I cannot save as JSON. What I can do is there are different online tools that help transform from CSV to JSON. I'm using this one. I have shared it in this Telegram channel, but I can share it in the chat here also. So here I can come here, and so this data we are going to use is for as input for our data transformation. Then it will generate code for us. You will see what it generates. I was here, so I need CSV to JSON. Just import the CSV data, which is under here bookstore, comma. This one is a comma separated values data. See, this one is it. Now I can click generate. Let's click convert. Then it will convert it to JSON. So it has generated JSON for us. What is there is okay. So in the generated format, we have category, title, language, author, year, price. I think it is a little bit messed up somewhere here. Maybe I imported the Excel file rather than the CSV, but we can manually also remove these ones. But this website, its conversion is not 100% accurate otherwise. Okay, click here. I need data type. I just need comma separated values. So this one, bring it here. As array, I want the output as array because I have multiple columns. Parse numbers, parse JSON. So convert. Yeah, it didn't do it 100% accurate, but no problem. We can just copy this, bring it here, and then remove this one. So this is the first book element. We have category and language where attributes in the XML file. They are here. That's good. So this is one. The other one is this one. I will remove this also. And I will remove this as well. So now I will save this as JSON. Come here, JSON file, bookstore. So now in that folder, I have 4 data types of bookstore: XML, JSON, CSV, and XLSX. So now we will see, using this data, we will see how we can do data transformations using metadata. So this input data, as you can see, it is an array, right? Because I have multiple inputters. You do this when you expect your input to be an array. If your input is an array, then you can use an array example if your project expects an array. But if your project is going to process one object at a time rather than an array, it will be an object. So that's the assignment. So in this assignment, what we have is just use an object, a single element from an array, as metadata for the transformation, and understand the code generated and understand the difference between what we do today, the output we get from today, and this one. We are going, you compare that, and also you push it to GitHub and share your link. So now let's create a project. Just new project. Let's call it data transformation, data weave, metadata. This here, finish. So as we said, we use data weave when we use the transform message. It uses data weave. Also the set payload, we can use it with set variable. We can write data weave code with set variable, set payload, with the logger and so on. But if it is complex code, especially, we use transform message. So I will drag a couple of transform message operations. Let's first do even one of them. So let's start with XML to JSON transformation. So this one, I will rename it to XML to JSON. Pay attention in the code that will be generated and understand why it is generating it like that. And here also, I will call this, rename it to XML to JSON. And by default, in the transform message, the output is in Java format. So you have to convert it to, you have to change it to the format that you want. So by default, it is Java format because DataWeave is basically, as we know, a Java-based platform. So it is faster with Java, but there are cases where you have to change it to different data formats. And that is why we are understanding the data transformation and in processing it and filtering, enrichment, and so on. So in this case, the output in this case is anyway JSON. And now, let me open the projects that we did before a couple of months so that you compare the difference between the two and why we need this and what we did before. We have this data transformation. This one, if I open it and show you some what we did during that time, this one. So we had some data. What we did was, if the input is, for example, this final, as you can see, we have flow references here. This one transforms to CSV and writes it to CSV. This one transforms the data to JSON and writes the output. This one transforms it to Excel. So I write it, the output to Excel. So the input in this case is XML, but we were changing different input data types and practicing, experimenting with that. If we come here and see the MIME type, as you can see, this one, it is XML. That is why we don't see XML in here in the scatter gather. And what we did was, it was array input. If you come see here to CSV, for example, when it is XML in the transform message, so we were using this dot star row because our root node was data, and we had a row element. So to get all rows, we did like this, as you can see, but we are not renaming the columns. We are not just selecting a subset of the columns, or we are not maybe adding some columns or subtracting and so on. We are not transforming the values. It is the output is as is. We didn't change in all of them. It was just like this. This was what we were doing. When it is XLSX, we have to give it the sheet name. Otherwise, as you can see here, we didn't do anything else except just we passed the whole array. This one, payload dot data dot star row gives us an array, and that is what we did. So the whole input will be output basically. However, in today's case, with the data wave, it is more flexible. You can do whatever you want with it. That's the difference. So let me close this project and show you here. So to give it an example, what we do is, so I have this transform message, as you can see here. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to upload sample XML and sample JSON data. Then I'm going to map the transformation, exclude columns that I don't need, or modify the final output also. So to do that, we have input here on the left. As you can see, this is the input window, this is output window. Then I can give the example data here. So here it says in the input, it says payload unknown define. So I click define here. In the output also, it says define metadata. So click define. Then you see here, we have select metadata type. Then click add. So this one, we'll call it bookstore. Let's add the XML file first. So once we do that, the type, you specify the type. We have different types that we can add here: CSV, Excel, JSON, XML, and so on. So this is XML. And you can specify the schema for a single object, or you can upload an array if you have example data. In our case, since we have an example, we are going to select example. Then we select the path. Here it says select the path to your example. Select your XML example file. Click here. I will go to the class data transformation. Oh, I guess it is sample data. It is this one. Since it expects XML, you see only the XML file is visible here. So this is the example. The other thing, actually, before I click OK, you see here, what does it say? Here it says the example data will be copied to, it will be under source main resources example. This is important to remember. It is or understand. Example data will be under main resources examples. Let me close this and see if it has already added it or not. So here, under here, we have examples and we have schemas. So any examples and schemas we add, it will be here with the project. Okay, so let me add that and I will show you it will come here. It is XML, example, and data transformation, sample data. This is the path. Now, once I click next, the other thing, this one here, we'll see it next also, but you see the attributes, they have this @ sign. So the book element, under it, it has an attribute. You know that category is attribute because it has an @ sign. And the title also has an @ sign, whereas these are elements. The elements here are book, title, author, year, and price, and language and category are attributes. And we are going to see how to access them. So click select. While it is adding it, let's see. Now I should see it under examples. Now we have the bookstore.xml data here. I can see it. If you just click, right click on it and open with some text editor. Let's see, here is the data. So it gets added to the project. Okay, let's add the output. We want it to be JSON because we are transforming multiple XML file with multiple observations to JSON, to an array basically. So we want to give it our metadata to be an array. Here also I will click add. We have to add metadata. Let's call it bookstore CSV. So with CSV also, the type I come here, select it. Then you can give the example definition here yourself, or you can just select the path to the example. I have an example because I want to see, I want to preview the output also. So I want to give it an example. So if I come here to that location and here, now it should choose the CSV, this one, the CSV, right? It says here, as you can see, comma separated values file. That one also will be copied and it will be under examples once I click select. As you can see, it has been added here. So now, okay. So now what do you see? Under here, under the input, you see it is what it looks like. The fields, we see them here. There is book. If I expand it, under book, I see an attribute because it has an end sign here. So category is an attribute. I have price, year, author, title, elements, and under title also there is lang. Whereas my okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I selected CSV. I want JSON for now. Let me add the JSON also. This one, set metadata. Let me add bookstore JSON. And for JSON also, click JSON from the type. For JSON in the XML, we can specify the schema or upload an example. Let's just see uploading example and schema. We will see it later. So example JSON file, and this one, this is the JSON file. It will be copied here. You will see it under examples. Okay, perfect. So you see now the fields, I can see them here. And yes, it is drag and drop, like the title. This XML, it was kind of more complex, I can say, because it has attributes, whereas the JSON, these are just the keys, and I want to map them. So you can write the map operation that we saw last week, or drag and drop, and it will generate code for you here. So pay attention here on the right. So title, from the XML, the title, I want it to be mapped to title in the output JSON file. And the author, I want it to be mapped to author, year, price to price, category to this category, and language is under title to language. So basically, as you can see in my example, if I output JSON, I use the same column names, but they can be different columns, the order and the column names. And also you may not need to include all of them. So you just map only the values that you need. Now see this one, now it generated this code for us. If you just write this code yourself, you are doing the same thing. So what is it doing? Try to spend time here and to understand what it is doing. It will help you to understand a couple of things. One thing is our input is XML, so it has a root node, which is bookstore. So payload.bookstore, when we do this XML. So when we do payload.bookstore, we have these objects. They will be this, you can consider them as these items. And to get all book elements, that is what it has done here. Dot, if it just do dot book, it is going to get the first element. But in map, to use map, we need an array. So that is what, to get all of them as an array, you see here, we use dot asterisk book. So this is an array. And last time we said map is used for transforming elements of an array to another array. So the input is an array, the output is also an array when we use map. So you see there is map that we saw last time. Then here, here it is calling it by default, just giving it the element name book and index of book. Last time we used item and index. You can call it whatever you want as far as it is descriptive. But here, once you call this book, so book in this case means the book element. This is the first element, this is the second element, and this is the third element, right? So the first time it is mapping this one. So book means this one, and the index of book is for this one 0, for this one 1, for this one 2. So that's what you see here. So book, then to get the category, since the category is an attribute, you don't just use dot category, but rather you use book dot at. You can see it here actually. So when you do book dot, for the rest, like for year, you access it using book dot year, as you can see, book dot year, book dot author for the elements, book dot price. Whereas for category and for language, the other important thing here is also there is a default, as you can see here. You can specify the default value if it doesn't have data or if the transformation fails. So for category, the default value is missing, just empty. For all of them, it is empty, the default values, except these are all of them strings. You can see the data type here, right? You can see title is string, language is string, author is string, year and price are number, and the category is string. So the numbers, they are default by default, it put it to 0. If 0 doesn't make sense, you can give it whatever default value you want. So this default value, you can edit it, for example, to 2000, let's say, and so on. So yeah, so you see, it generates a neat code for us, and you can spend time understanding what this code is doing and trying to reproduce yourself. And let me change this to full screen, and we can preview even the output. So I can click here and preview. You see now, so you can see the input we gave it is the input is XML, and it shows us the preview what it looks like here. And if you want a subset of the columns also, I can, let's say, the title maybe I want to change it or the year of publication. You can change it like this. Now you can see here with this one, it is the connection is disabled, but still this one should be fine because we have the code. Once you use this to generate the code, then you can modify it. Or maybe I don't want the language because I know all of them have English, so I can just remove it also. See, so it has this flexibility. Or maybe you may want to concatenate the title and the author. So I can just copy this and double plus for concatenation, do like this, and we can add space. Let's say, just add a space in between. So what I can do is maybe this, then concatenation. So what I'm doing here is, let me see why it is complaining. So what I'm doing here is book this default we need at the end. So I'm concatenating the title, then followed by that there is a dash, then the author, for example. So it has more, once it generates the code for you, it has all the flexibility. And you can see, where is it? Title here. For it is showing invalid. Title. Yeah, I have to remove this. And maybe book title concatenation with this, concatenation with author. Oh, yeah, I don't need this too. That is key name. So now I can specify the default is just dash. So now if you see title, you see there is this title followed by the author and so on. You can make modifications anyway once you have the code. So this one is good. It is until you master the writing map operation. It is good to practice with, and also it is common in different projects. You will be using it, and the sample data will be included with the project. So if someone gives you their project, you can see the sample data and see how it is being transformed. But you have to understand your requirements first to prepare the input, the payload, and also the metadata. Like, will it have attributes, for example? Do I need the attributes? How should I rename the columns, and so on? So understanding the requirement is important from that perspective. But you can, as you can see, it is very, very neat. So we saw XML to JSON. Now let's quickly do XML to CSV and XLSX. So here, XML to CSV. I will rename it here, XML to CSV. The only thing now we need is this one. I have to change it to CSV, right? The output. For the input, I have the same data that I have added. I don't need to upload again. Yeah, the CSV also have uploaded it already, actually. It says unknown. Okay, I will modify the CSV. But the input is XML, so just select XML. Whereas for the output, I will just click this, and this bookstore, I will, it says unknown, so I have to give it the path, the CSV example, which is in here. It is this one. I don't know why it didn't detect it before. So if I click select, it has uploaded it 2 times. Okay, let me open this. Open with text editor. Yeah, you see there is this CSV data, but since I have uploaded it twice, that's why you see here -1. This one, is it empty? And also it's fine. So I don't need this one. Then let me remove this. Okay, so here, let me specify. I have this one. The output. Here we can click. If you see such kind of thing, just right click here and set metadata. CSV says unknown. Maybe it doesn't know the structure. Let me just select and see what it does. Okay, my CSV. Okay, you remember the CSV? I got it from the website and modified a couple of things. Oh, actually, it was a JSON. CSV was just saved from here. So it should know it. For some reason, it is not working. Leave metadata, define metadata. Let me remove this and do it again. Call it CSV2, for example, or add. First, I have to click add. CSV2 create. So it is CSV, maybe specified wrong data type. And here it is example definition, sample file, come here, data transformation, sample data, select the CSV data, make sure, let me check if it is appropriate CSV data. So this is bookstore. Is it correct or it is working? Yeah, it is fine. Okay. So let's this one open, then specify it. Now it seems it identified the columns. Don't know why it didn't identify before. So yeah, I'm calling it CSV2. So I will use that one. Select loading metadata. Okay. Yeah, for some reason the CSV is not working. I will see why it is not working before later, but let's continue with the rest. So XML to, let's see, XML, this one, even let's modify it to XML to XLSX. Here also XML to XLSX. So to do that, we need, we have to define metadata here for XL also. So I will come here and set metadata, click add. I will add the structure of the XL data. So here, bookstore XLSX. Once I do that, I come here, the type is XL. Then here we just give the schema or the column names and their data type. So let me open that. Category is one, it is a string. Click add, the column name is category. The data type is selected from the drop down, it is string. The second one, title. Click add, paste it here and change. This is string also. Next one is language. Click add, come here, and then still it is string. This is author. Then we have here end price. So this is also string. Add. I guess underline. Okay, yeah, I didn't paste author. This should be author. String. Whereas this one, then is it price or year first? Year. Okay. So this one, year, it is a number. So there's a data type, I have to change it to number here. Add the last column, which is price. That one is also a number, the data type you can see. So you can see the data types also, the different data types we have. You can see most of them here. This date and the date time. We have also local date time, but these are the most common data types. So number and the sheet name. See also the sheet name, it is sheet one by default. So in the transformation, you will see using sheet one, payload.sheet1 to create the array. Okay, select. Okay, so now as you can see, it detects the structure or the schema. So now I can just drag and drop. Title, map it to title. See the output, the code that it has generated for us. Language, drag and drop it to language. Author to author here. Year also to whatever column name you want it to be. They should not be the same column names again. Yeah, you have to remember that. So see, now it generated this code. You can just write this code yourself or drag and drop and generate this code. So the same thing. This is to the output it XL. So that is why since it XL, it has sheet name right here. You can see this one is, for example, bookstore. So the sheet name is sheet one. And then you can see to access all the elements of the XML file as an array. We have again payload.bookstore. Bookstore is a root element dot asterisk book. Then the mapping is like just what we discussed before. Okay, now let's see with JSON how to do from JSON to the other formats. And the rest, I think it is just you can practice yourself how it behaves with other formats also. I will drag and drop a couple of transform message operations. This one, let's call it JSON to XML. Rename it here also. The example, the files I have already uploaded them. Just now, just selecting the appropriate ones. Otherwise, I don't need to create again because example files have already been created and uploaded, added to the project. So this one is from JSON to XML. And we remember XML file needs a root node in the transformation before also. Like, let me open the projects that we did before a couple of months, and just with the XML, I want to show you what we did. If you see here, okay, I see. Oh, this one was the final version, so we don't have transformation to XML, but we were including a root node, if you remember. If you don't include root node, when you transform to XML, it fails. For JSON, it is optional. However, for root node, for XML, having a root node is important part of that data structure. As just to see here, this is the root node. Let me remove this. So this is the root node. This is important. So now, when we drag and drop, it is going to take care of all these things for us. So our input is JSON, give it an example JSON input, which should be an array. We are doing this because we are expecting our input data for the project will be an array, multiple records at a time. If it is one, again, it should be just an object. Do this, then the output is XML. I select the XML file, do this. Now you see in our input is JSON, which is this relatively neat, right, as compared to XML. I mean, but now this XML, we are going to transform it to JSON, and it will have attributes. For the category and language will be attributes. Category will be an attribute of the book element, which is not here. And language will be an attribute of the title element. So here, just drag and drop, expand this. As you can see, category will be, see, it will be converted to this attribute, to category. So you see what the code is generated for us. It looks a little bit complex, but if you spend some time on it, you will understand it. So there is this payload. Let me finish all of them first. Title to title, and language to this language, author to author, year to year, price to whatever column we want it to be. So we want it to be price now. Let me maximize this, and let's see the code, what it has done. So this one is a root node, which is an important, we said. This bracket and this bracket, if you don't include it, it adds it itself. It should work, it should not give an error, but this one is important, this root node. Bookstore is a root node. The other thing is also, so see book, there is book element here. That book element, it has an attribute because you see at followed by bracket here, and the element is category, and its value is payload.category. This payload 01, it doesn't mean the first element of the payload because it is iterating over the array, right? So every time there is one element, but this naming is just, you can call it whatever you want. As far as if I call this here, for example, data, I have to make sure all these payload 01 are data. So you see the book element has an attribute, it is category, and its value is the payload.category. Then under that element, we have title element also, it is with an attribute, language is attribute or lang, and its value is payload.lang for the attribute. And you see the text. The text for title is payload 01.title. Then we have author, year, and price. Accessing these ones is just like we access when we have JSON data. The only difference is for XML, we can have attributes. So when you have attributes to access them, you use dot and attribute name. And to create an attribute when creating an XML, you do the element name followed by at, then you open bracket, give the attribute name, then colon, then you give the value of the attribute. Then you follow the rest of the elements. Now, if I click preview here, you can see the XML file generated for us. So we have the declaration here, we have the bookstore read element, and we have this book 1 and book 2 and book 3 here. Another thing, important thing is, if you are writing this code yourself, one source of error that may encounter is when it is XML, including this bracket is important. If it is JSON, let me minimize this and show you the output with the previous one. Here, we are transforming XML to JSON, and in the code there is no bracket here. We didn't do like this, right? We didn't do like this. I mean, it doesn't give an error, but it is not a requirement. As far as the bracket we are opening, we close it. It didn't give an error, but it's not needed. Whereas in this XML, the other thing you notice here, an important thing is, I guess I opened the wrong one. Bear with me. Here, JSON to XML. If I maximize this, you see here, you give the root element and all the array here, you want to pass it as an object. So we put it within brackets. So there is this bracket here, and that bracket closes here. So this bracket and this bracket, if you are transforming it to JSON, for example, they will not be there. So this is important. If you remove this, it will give us an error. It says, what is this? This is an array. I don't know it. How can I handle it? If you click create, yeah, I see error here. Issue found. So it says it expected something. Yeah, I see it expected. Yeah, I didn't understand it, but if we just add this one, it should work fine. So the error goes away and it generates an example for us. So map operation is for transforming from one array to another. While transforming, you can rename fields, you can select subset of the fields, you can, for example, convert it from one format to the other if it was dollars to cents or US dollars to euros and so on. And so on. So, but you have to remember always for map operation, the input is an array, and also the output is an array. Tomorrow we are going to see what we use when we have an object and how it behaves. And the example, the assignment I have for you guys is that one. Please practice that. So what you do is basically you have this data from this data, you just take one element, for example, just one element. Your input, rather than an array like this, it will be just one object. This one, let's say you have just one object. Then how does it behave? In that case, map is for array. You will see it will not use map in that case. You will not see map because the input is one object. So to transform it to something else, you just use payload dot. You can access payload dot because you just have one single element. Whereas when you have multiple elements or an array, that is when to access it, we use dot asterisk, which creates an array. And if we have an array, to transform an array, we use map. And the final output is also, remember, it is always an array. I think this is enough for today. I will see if there are any questions. Oh, yeah, there was syntax error. Thank you, Squad. Okay. So that is that's it. This one, I will complete it with all the data transformations from, so actually we covered only a little, much smaller percentage of what I wanted to cover, but you understand the concept now. When you see the project, you can understand with the rest also. So we have, I will add XML to JSON, XML to XLSX, XML to CSV, then we'll have JSON to the others, and XLSX also to the rest of the formats. Then you can download this project from the GitHub repo and practice that, and also see what the output looks like when you put the output data format to Java and DataWeave. DataWeave and Java are also common data formats, and I want you to read about them. I think I have that in this exercise. So experiment with DAW, DataWeave data format, and Java, see the output, and understand that Java data format is much performant as compared to the formats that we have here, but it doesn't mean always we have to use Java format. And once you complete the project, please push it to GitHub and share it with the group. So now I will unmute you and take any questions that you may have. Stop recording as well.